just old. It's old HBO, right? It's who wants to watch old HBO? Some of these performances are also pretty good. It's not fabulous, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's not like a Breaking Bad level or Sopranos level sort of stuff by any means, but it's good. Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to the Parkside Merchant channel. For today's video, I wanted to give everybody a rundown of 10 television shows that I would highly recommend that folks consider watching. These are not necessarily the best shows that are out there. This video is not intended to focus on the stuff that always gets a lot of the attention, the shiny objects of television. I'm not going to talk about Game of Thrones, or The Sopranos, or Lost, or all that stuff, right? This is the kind of video for people that have kind of made their way through all the really popular, all the really well-known, really good stuff, and are now trying to find that next level of television that's sort of one rung below kind of the well-known, all-time favorites that everybody knows about, right? So the shows that I wanted to talk about in this video are specifically the things that people should think about watching after they've kind of had the run with Game of Thrones or Downton Abbey, right, or Lost or Breaking Bad or all the really famous stuff that everybody knows about and everybody talks about. So that's basically what I wanted to do here, was talk a little bit about a couple of shows that I think many people are either not very aware of or don't really understand why they're good, right? Or maybe they've heard the name, but they don't really know what it's all about. So wanted to basically just shed some light on some television shows that I've seen. Every show that's here I've seen in its entirety, and I would recommend all of them and that you're going to see in this list, some more so than others. So I have tried to force rank these. We're going to go in order of obviously the most interesting show I think is going to be at the end here is number one, and I just wanted to give you some of my thoughts, right, on a couple shows that I think are really good, that deserve more attention, and that I think people should consider. This is going to be a spoiler-free video, so that anyone who is worried about spoilers, you don't have to worry at all. I'm not going to spoil anything in this video. The first show here is Black Sails, okay? This is a show that's about pirates, in case that wasn't abundantly obvious from the poster and this notion of Black Sails as the title of the show. But it's basically a 4-season series. It's got 38 episodes. It is bingeable. If this is something you wanted to try to knock out in a couple of, I guess you probably do this in like a couple weeks. If you do it quick, you watch a couple episodes every day, you could be able to finish this in pretty short order. It's Starz television network, which is unusual. You're going to see a lot of HBO in here, some Netflix, I think, and some other big names. You can see here 65% rating on Rotten Tomatoes for the first season. It's pretty good. I mean, if you're really into pirates and you're into like the Pirates of the Caribbean, for example, if you like a lot of historical dramas and adventures, this is very much an adventure show as well. This is certainly by no means my favorite show on the list of things I'm going to show you here today, but it is, I think, worth thinking about. They were clearly pretty high budget. The production quality is good. Some of these performances are also pretty good. It's not fabulous, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's not like a Breaking Bad level or Sopranos level sort of stuff by any means, but it's good. And some of the characters are actually pretty interesting and compelling. The only drawbacks with this show, in my opinion, number one, it can get a little boring. Like I did personally just get kind of bored with some of it. The plot wasn't like, it's interesting because it's about pirates and there's a lot of adventure themes and mysteries and action sequences and all that sort of stuff you'd expect from a pirate adventure. But it was also kind of a snooze at some points for me. Maybe that's just me. There's a lot of people that stand by this show, especially people that watched Vikings, the History Channel Vikings show, people that are big fans of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Those are the kind of people that are going to really stand by this show and really enjoy it. Number 9, we have a show here called The 100. So this is actually 7 seasons. It's 100 episodes. So this is not a bingeable thing. This would take you a while to binge if you are going to try to binge it. I have seen all 100 episodes. This was a CW network show, just wrapped up last year in 2020. It aired from 2014 to 2020. 76% on Rotten Tomatoes for season 1. I believe some of the other seasons, there's a couple of mid-seasons there that actually are, in my opinion, better than the first season. So this is kind of like a Walking Dead sort of a thing where it has a couple seasons in the middle that are really good, and then it kind of, it kind of gets kind of boring towards the end, and some people really gave up on it as it went on and on, but it's good. For people that like Walking Dead, for people that like Lost, some of these very long shows that have a lot of mystery themes to them and like all that sort of stuff, it's a good fit. It's basically like about a dystopian sort of landscape. There's like some space elements here as well. I don't want to spoil the plot too much, but it's very interesting. It's not a kids show. I know there's a misconception that with CW and like with some of these teenage characters and stuff that it's like it's a show for kids. Maybe like some parts of the first season felt a little bit that way, but I didn't really get like a teen drama sense from this show. It actually had some very heavy subject matter, especially in the mid-season. I do recommend it. I recommend this one probably more than I recommend Black Sails, the Pirates show. Okay, number 8 here. This one's maybe a little controversial for some folks. And I should say at the start, I am not a big crime drama person. There's a couple shows that I really liked in the crime space. True Detective is another good one in the crime family. This is a very overlooked show, in my opinion, in the crime genre. This is a 5-season show, 103 episodes, folks. This is a huge show. 2011 to 2016 is when this ran on CBS. You'll notice this is a J.J. Abrams and Jonathan Nolan production. For fans of Westworld, for fans of Lost, this is going to be a show that I think you want to take a look at. This was Michael Emerson's next project, basically, after he finished up Lost. And he had one of the best characters in the entire series of Lost. Almost no debate that his character is one of the most interesting on the show. And he's got another very interesting character here in this particular show that came right after Lost. It's almost like his character. It's just interesting for people that watch Lost. I think you will appreciate the work that he put into this role here. 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I know a lot of folks, Jim Caviezel, a lot of folks aren't huge fans of his style or kind of his persona and all that stuff. He does a fine job in this series. I never really watched a lot of his other stuff, but I liked it. I mean, it was a good show, good story. Basically, it's a crime drama that involves elements of artificial intelligence and the use of like a very highly sophisticated machine that helps these folks fight crime. But it's very well done. There's a lot more to the show than just like a robot that helps people fight crime. And it's interesting. Like, it's a very compelling narrative. It's long. If you're looking for a long haul show, this will keep you busy for a long time, folks. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's not like the kind of thing that got worse as it went on. There were some really good seasons and it had a good conclusion, so I was happy with this show for sure. Okay, next up, number 7. We have a pretty new show here. It's called The Head. This is a foreign production from HBO Asia. It involved, I think, a lot of Spanish production as well as folks in Japan that worked on the project. 1 season, 6 episodes. This is a very bingeable thing. And it's good, folks. I mean, this is a very, very interesting show. Without any spoilers, it's a bunch of scientists that are wintering in Antarctica. So they're spending several months during the winter season there with very minimal outside communication and not a whole lot of like outside exposure to the world. And it's good. Like, I'm not going to spoil it. It's got elements of horror. It's got elements of sci-fi and drama and all sorts of interesting stuff that happens here. 86% review on Rotten Tomatoes. You probably don't recognize a lot of the actors or performers here, but I think a lot of them did a pretty good job. And several of them, probably this is going to be the big break in their careers for some of the younger folks that were here. So I think it's a really good show. I recommend you watch it. It's only 6 episodes. It's on HBO, and it's interesting. It'll definitely hold your attention for the 6 episodes. Okay, number 6. This one is slightly better than The Head, in my opinion. And this show is called The Terror. Now, unlike The Head, This is not in Antarctica. This is in the North Pole region. And it's also set during the 1800s, I believe, or maybe the early 1900s. I don't exactly recall, but this is a solid show, folks. This is an AMC production. There's some A-level television talent in here, and it's good. I mean, I don't really have a lot else to say about it. It's 2 seasons. The first season is really good. The second season is not as good. But the one that's basically set on the ship in the middle of the Arctic during the winter, it's good. 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's an AMC production. You've got some Game of Thrones reunion in terms of the cast of characters you'll see in there, so it's got a lot going for it, folks. I recommend you give it a try. It's only 10 episodes for the first season, and it's something you're going to remember for sure. It's really good. This is where things get very difficult because the next 5 programs that I'm going to show here are very, very good. Some of these are so critically acclaimed that you would say they deserve to be up at the level of The Sopranos or Game of Thrones or Downton Abbey, right? Or some of these very critically acclaimed television dramas. So the first one that I have here, this is number 5 on my list, is a show called The Americans. Now this ran from around 2013 to I think 2018 or so it's a pretty recent production. This is from FX, critically acclaimed, 87% for the first season on Rotten Tomatoes. Several of the later seasons are as good or better than the first season. The premise, I mean, I'm not spoiling it because you can basically see it here on the teaser. It's basically a couple that are Russian spies for the KGB that are basically planted in the U.S. In Washington, D.C. During the Cold War, and they're doing all kinds of espionage activities and things and trying to live among the people as spies, essentially. And it's really good. And some people, this is obviously a very famous show, so this is maybe not a surprise to see this on my list here, but it's very good. For people that enjoy drama, that enjoy some of these espionage or spy-themed kinds of shows. If you were big on the Bourne series, like the Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Identity, if you're big into James Bond, if you're big into like just the spy genre, then you're really going to appreciate this show. Okay, number 4. We're getting into what I call old HBO. This is where you get back into this show I think ran from around 2004 to 2006, Deadwood. It had a reprise in 2019 as a movie. They did a film as well for the show, but it's 3 seasons from the original run. It's only 36 episodes, so it is bingeable. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes for the series. This is really good stuff here, folks. And I'm not a big Western person. I don't really care for that genre much. The only other like Western themed show that I've seen is Westworld, I think. So from that angle, it's not like I have any special affinity for the Western genre. It's really good. It's about a bunch of folks in sort of like a boom town, I think in one of the Dakota territories or something, back in the 1800s, and there's like a lot of gold prospectors that are out there in the village, and all these like travelers and traders and marshals, like the U.S. Marshals and stuff. It's very interesting and very well acted. All right, here we go. Number 3 on my list, in my top 10, is a show called The Knick from Cinemax. I just finished watching this about 2 weeks ago. It's only 2 seasons, 20 episodes. It ran from 2014 to 2015. There is a possibility that a 3rd season may go into production soon. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that is underrated in my opinion. This show is phenomenal, folks. I cannot say a bad word about this show except that it is extremely dark and that it is a very, very this is not an upbeat show, I guess is how I'll put it. There is very little good stuff that happens in this entire season. So if you're looking for a show that's going to like elevate your spirits, make you feel good, make you laugh, have a good time, this is not one of those shows. This is a very dark, very sad, very depressing kind of a show in my opinion. But it's so well done, and it contends with some very interesting subject matter. It's basically a show that's about a surgeon in the early 1900s in New York City who's like got a lot of personal issues, and the health system that he works in, the hospital, has like all these terrible, just like terrible things going on from a business perspective. There's like a lot of interesting commentary on race. It's just like a very interesting, very heavy show, and very dark. It's like a very sad sort of a show, but it's so well done that it's like, I couldn't stop watching it. I finished the whole thing in like a week and a half. It's really good. So if you're into medical dramas, if you don't mind watching a show that is very dark, if you like House or like Grey's Anatomy, or some of that sort of stuff, and you're comfortable with a show that's going to be very dark and very just not a happy show, like it's just some really terrible stuff that happens to people in this show, then I mean you're going to love it. It's like really, really good and really well done. Very underrated. I hadn't even heard of it until I stumbled upon this show by accident in my HBO Max account. So take a look, folks. It's really good. You should check this out. Can't say enough good things about how this show came together. It's really good. All right, number 2, another old HBO show right here. This is Rome, folks. And I avoided this for years. It had always been there in the HBO library. I always saw it, and I was always like, that can't be good. It's like, who wants to watch some show about Rome? It's like, that's probably some silly stuff. I just had no interest in it, right? It's from 2005 to 2007, so I always thought it was old, and not like just old. It's old HBO, right? It's who wants to watch old HBO? If you saw The Sopranos, that's all the old HBO you need, right? Because that's so good, nothing else could compare, right? False. That is categorically not true. There is other very good stuff from old HBO, and this is absolutely one of those shows that you need to watch. It's only 2 seasons, 22 episodes, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There is nothing I didn't like about this show. This show, you can see when you watch just the first few episodes how heavily it influenced the plot and the performances of the characters in Game of Thrones. You can see it. It's abundantly obvious that this show had extreme influential impact over how Game of Thrones was produced and how it was acted by some of the main characters. It's great. Like, every main character in this show I thought did a phenomenal job. You do have a lot of Game of Thrones people in this show as well before they moved on to bigger and better things in the Game of Thrones series. But it's excellent. It's about basically ancient Rome during the kind of Julius Caesar time frame, right? There's all this drama with Egypt and some of the territories that Rome is expanding into. And it's just like really well done. For people that are interested in history, for people that liked Game of Thrones, you will like this. I promise. If you enjoyed Game of Thrones, you will enjoy this show. And my number 1 show on this list here, folks, is a show called Boardwalk Empire. Now, I know very few people that watched this show in its entirety. Whenever I talk about this show, people are like, you watched that show? Like, nobody knows anybody who's like a fan of this show. I am a diehard fan of this show. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal work of television, in my opinion. So it's 5 seasons. It's about 56 episodes. It ran from 2010 to 2014. It's an HBO show. It did have a lot of seasons that ran concurrently with Game of Thrones, which is why it never really got a lot of attention. It was always sort of the second in line, if you will, or the third in line, because Game of Thrones was soaking up all the attention and all the spotlight. But this show is outstanding, folks. It is so good. There's nothing bad. Let me tell you this. The pilot episode of this show, HBO spent over $18 million on the pilot episode alone. And just so you know, for comparison, most Game of Thrones episodes cost around $10 million per episode to produce. $18 million for the pilot, okay? The production quality here is outstanding. The performance from Steve Buscemi and several of the other folks in this show, I mean, it is incredible, phenomenal, exceptional, very unexpected, very refreshing. It's so different from like a lot of the other period pieces and dramas. I watched this immediately after I finished watching Downton Abbey, So it was like a very weird comparison because this takes place in the 1920s or so, and some of the Downton Abbey episodes in the later seasons take place around the same time frame. So it was just a very interesting contrast from something that was like a very happy, sort of upbeat drama to something that's like a very dark and very just different show. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, as you can see here. Without spoilers, Steve Buscemi's character, he's basically the guy you see there in the center. He's basically a crime boss in Atlantic City in New Jersey during the Prohibition era. Lots of criminal activities, lots of corruption, lots of the casinos and bars and things like that they were all involved in. Just like a very interesting drama. If you like The Sopranos, if you like, honestly, anything else that's like a heavy drama, you're going to love this show. If you were into Breaking Bad or you were into like all that sort of stuff, this is a show that you need to pay attention to. So that's all I have to say here, folks, for the top 10 list. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope if just a handful of people discovered a show here from this list that you hadn't heard of, that could be, very valuable to folks. If you watch one of these shows and you really enjoy it, for people that really appreciate television, right? It's an experience when you discover a show that you really enjoy. So just hoping to cast some light on a couple of programs that I think are just things that people don't think about a lot or maybe aren't even aware of as programs that you need to watch or you need to think about, because this is some very good stuff that's listed here, but it never gets as much airtime or as much attention as the big hitters, the shows everybody talks about and everybody knows about. This is stuff that's like as good or better than some of those programs that a lot of people I think would appreciate if they had the chance to watch them. That's all here for the video. Thanks again for watching. This is the Parkside Merchants channel, and we'll see you next time.